semester, where we cover anything and everything UW-Oshkosh athletics and sports. And across the state of Wisconsin, we have a lot in store for this one. As first off, the people joining me, as I am Braden Junkers, WRST Sports Director. I'm joined by my Operations Manager, Jacob Link, Titan TV and WRST Sportscaster, Justice Sear, and over in the corner, Noah Mosley, a sophomore cross-country runner, as he is our special guest for tonight. So quickly overview what we're going to be talking about today. First, UW-Oshkosh's number 19 ranked football team had a huge come-from-behind victory against Roosevelt University on Saturday. Then we'll go around where Jacob Link will be talking about our women's volleyball team, which is the number 3 in the nation. We'll then be asking Noah about his cross-country team and their debut of their new cross-country course. And then rounding it out, we'll have hot takes on the Wisconsin Badgers and Packers. And what is the status on the Brewers postseason run, with also a little bit of MLB. We'll first step aside for a quick break. We'll be back with coverage of Titan football and the review on their huge come-from-behind victory against Roosevelt University.
Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, press you for personal information, or demand instant payment. Social Security
Get a deep dive into UW-Oshkosh's football team. They are, after the new rankings, stay at number 19 after a huge come-from-behind victory against Roosevelt University. 19 after a huge come-from-behind victory against Roosevelt University, where there were 3 lightning delays. Yes, 3 lightning delays. But Oshkosh, they battled through the lightning and the thunder as they are victorious 38-21. And right now, I mean, we'll look back. Some big plays. At the end of the first quarter, Roosevelt University was up 7-0. But to start the second quarter, Oshkosh started it off with a bang.
That's Jake Shutter. Jake Shutter with a forced fumble. And
with a QB keeper to tie the game up at 7. Until we went to half, when it was 21-14 in favor of Roosevelt University, when we had almost an hour-and-a-half lightning delay. But speaking of lightning, London Little made a presence in his first game back after not playing against North Central, and he did it in a huge way.
A tight end off the right tackle, Keene, and Velasky in the backfield. Keene snapped. Fakes it, throws in the middle, London Little wide open.
After that play, 17 unanswered points. But there was one guy that myself and Justice, didn't know was even on the roster until the second quarter when he appeared. And that was Ben Volaski, a transfer out of Minnesota Duluth. And he ended his day in a very good way with a house call.
Snap to Keene, hands it off to Volaski. Volaski with a full head of steam. Ben Volaski. Ben Volaski, he's at 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Ben Volaski. Welcome to Oshkosh, Ben Volaski. A huge touchdown. And Justice, back in the first quarter, we didn't know who this kid was. And he's playing amazing. He's come out of nowhere. I think we've seen a star is born here in Oshkosh.
And like we said, a star has been born. Ben Volaski finished the day 18 carries, 149 yards, and a touchdown. And Oshkosh found the ground game as they got over 227 yards rushing. And Quinn Keene, though, had himself a day. Over 220 yards passing. Oshkosh finished with 38 points and 470 yards of total offense. But also the defense stepped up in a big way in the second half, pitched a shutout, no points allowed. And now to the rest of the crew. I mean, first off, Jacob, what did you think of that game?
Well, it was really a game of really like two halves. I mean, the first half, it looked like for the most part it was just all Roosevelt, especially in that first quarter too. I mean, at the end of the first half, they led 21-14, I believe, and the big guys up front for Roosevelt really looked like they were kind of sticking it to that defensive line for UWO, but then things really kind of changed after that. I mean, you look into the weather delay that ended that first half. After that, I don't know what happened, but I think Roosevelt just kind of got tired out there. That was one thing that I was noticing, is that the offensive line for Roosevelt looked really good the first half. Second half, I don't know if they sat too long or what, but they just looked tired. And the defensive front for Oshkosh, they only, rushed 3 men most of the time up front. I don't know how you get tired from a 3-man rush, but it worked. It happened. They were putting some blitz packages together with Kyle Dietzen and the linebackers, so that was really effective. I think it was really the defense that won this game, while the offense put together some really good drives. Really, it was the defense, I think, that sealed the victory because they forced 4 turnovers, and that's something that they were kind of missing. I mean, the defense was able to, hold their previous opponents this year to lower numbers than expected. I mean, North Central, they put up average 55 last year, and they got 45 against this defense. So I don't think the defense has played bad at all this year, but they finally put together a full 4-quarter performance, and I think that's really what led this team to victory.
The big thing is, though, Oshkosh with 3 interceptions off of Zach Zella. And a big thing in the press conference, Jacob, on Saturday, Kyle Dietzen had mentioned that their defensive coordinator, Coach Stenbrodden, had the full defensive unit work with the receivers coach and the receiving corps, and they put out a presentation on how to catch a football. I think it worked. I believe 3 interceptions is pretty good. I mean, they figured out how to catch the football. Justice, what do you have to add on that performance by Oshkosh?
Well, the big talk of the game, I thought, was, like we said, that big offensive line and defensive line for Roosevelt. I mean, you go by the numbers. Left tackle, Micah Walters, 6'5", left guard. Absolutely bowled them over in the second half. That offensive line was getting the most push I've seen all year, and they were getting pressure on defense, which is something that we don't talk about often for this Titan team. Like we said, they love to rush 3. And that one thing was, Roosevelt came into this game with no sacks. They left the game with no sacks as well. So those big guys up front got a huge ovation. And then also, it was the offense staying on the field long enough to keep our defense fresh, to play absolutely stalwart. I mean, seriously, 4 turnovers. And you look at the stats. In the first half, Roosevelt, Zach Zella had 194 yards and 3 touchdowns. At the end of the game, he had 269 yards, kept those 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I mean, you can't ask for anything better. I mean, defensively, they won the game.
And now to the big talking points. Number 1, Ben Volaski. Have we found the number 1 RB for Oshkosh? he didn't play at all in the first quarter, came on the second quarter, and proved that he was a big pickup, a mid-season transfer. This kid's 5'11", 200 pounds out of Appleton West. I mean, the kid's not too far from campus. I think this kid is going to be a big problem for teams in the WIAC if he can keep the performance he did. Jacob, what do you have to add on that?
I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. We didn't even know who this guy was going into this game. That's something that I don't think we really expected to see. Was it?
Myself were on the call. I mean, this kid was running over defenders. He was putting them in the dirt.
Yeah, the most impressive part was like the second efforts and the ability to just keep his legs churning. I mean, you could probably count on your fingers how many times he actually went down. It was either called down by forward progress or he ran out of bounds. He didn't go down. I mean, the leg strength out of Volevsky was, I mean, crazy. And another thing for this is they didn't use A.J. Korth a lot in the running game, which is nice because it looks like he can move out to receiver and be a weapon because he was good in this game at receiver. He was good in the past at receiver.
And the big thing is, though, is as we add on to that, we talked about the defense. This might be a little bit of a hot take. Could this Oshkosh team be the best defense in Division III? I mean, they went up against a D2 school, and they gave up 21 points, yes. But that second half defense was something different. It was almost like that first quarter against North Central where they really put the Cardinals at a standstill. No offense, no nothing. I mean, Jacob, Justice, who wants to go first? I mean, what do you guys think of this? Is this a hot take, or do you think this could be legit?
I mean, hate them with all my heart, but that Whitewater team has a really good defense down there. They upset Mary Hardin Baylor, and it wasn't really particularly close. Who came into the game number 4, number 5. They kept them to 6 points. They shut out St. Xavier University of Illinois the week before, and then the week before that they held Carleton College to 14 points. That team's pretty impressive. As much as I do love the Titans' defense, we have yet to see. And going into WIAC play, to go back to our last point, I think it's important to have a run game because the way that the conference has kind of evolved over the years, it's been more of a passing conference. In Wisconsin football, it's kind of weird, it's the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Conference, but it's been a passing conference. And if Oshkosh can run the ball, I think that'll open up a lot of things.
Yeah, and I kind of think while they looked really good against this school, Roosevelt, who had just transitioned to D2 2 years ago, like they were coming off of an NAIA season last year. They went 1-9. This year they've gone 1-2 so far. I don't think this team matches up at all to how the WIAC conference looks in Division III football. I mean, this is a bad Division II team. The guys that they had really good size. They looked like if they had some better coaching in them, maybe some more conditioning, that they really could have handed to the Titans. But, I think that overall, it's not a good measure of how they're going to perform because we saw them against North Central. They got their butt kicked. North Central is the best team in the nation right now. You look at the D3 football top 25 poll, I mean, how many guys are in there from the WIAC? At least
it's about
4?
5. It's 5.
And another note, the WIAC went undefeated this weekend.
Especially when teams like La Crosse were able to take down like a top Division II school, which that kind of makes me scary. Like, what's going to happen when we play La Crosse? I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I know that it's for our starters, it's at La Crosse in that contest. And I feel like Oshkosh is always very good at home, but when they have to travel, that's where they kind of falter. I think, like I said, this is not a very good test of what this team is truly capable of. I think that they're going to get wins against like Stevens Point and Eau Claire. The rest of the games, though, that's going to be a tough schedule. And while they're able to beat Linfield does not play in a very tough conference. The reason why they've had 68 straight winning seasons of football is because their conference is not very strong. But I do think I really liked the way that they played. I think it's awesome just for the guys in the team to say that they can beat the Division II school. I think that really helps kind of the confidence in the squad, especially the offense, that they're able to walk over like guys who are taller than them. Same as the defense too. But like I said, I'm not sure how this game will translate when they have to play River Falls in 2 weeks.
And I want to back up that point by saying La Crosse is ranked number 5, Platteville is ranked number 8, Whitewater is ranked number 10, River Falls is ranked number 11, and Oshkosh is ranked number 19. That's the WIAC right there.
It's unbelievable. I think the big thing is, though, is that Oshkosh has this bye week, but they're going to be playing a very, very, very tough team. River Falls, they have their trademark of an offense. There's a reason they call it the Top Gun offense. It's because they can beat you through the pass and on the ground. I think Oshkosh's defense, like you said, Jacob, they're going to have a big, big test next week as they have a bye week. But River Falls, to open up conference play, it's tough. I think, and another big talking point is, what does Oshkosh need to do to win the WIAC? I think you're going to have to scratch and crawl and try and basically force turnovers against a lot of very good teams. And I mean, they played almost the 4 of the teams that they play in the next coming weeks are all teams that are in the top 15 in all of Division III. I think it's just going to be tough. What are your guys' points?
I'll answer that for you. What Oshkosh needs to do to win the WIAC is Quentin Keene needs to be better. Quentin Keene was good. Stat sheet, absolutely good. I mean, why not? But in the first half and even in the second half at times, the inability to hit the layups can kill this team. When you're falling behind on first down, you're an incomplete pass, and now you're sitting at 2nd and 10. That invites the rush, whatever. You can't run the ball. Maybe they can now with Valevsky, but Keene needs to be better if this team is going to go anywhere. It starts with the quarterback, and to be honest, it ends with the quarterback.
I think it's really going to come down to the offense, kind of like to Justice's point, but I want to see them actually have an offensive identity. I think they started to get that in the second half, running the football, but we saw for most of that first half, it was trick plays that was getting them yards down the field. And there's only so many times you can try a Statue of Liberty play and hope that it works. And I think that we saw it the first 3 games, really, from Oshkosh. At the end of that third quarter, into the fourth quarter, though, they really started to pound the rock, and then eventually they were able to complete some of those deep balls to London Little. And I think that has really kind of shown that the offense is capable of putting together a real drive that's not just based on trick plays. And that's something that I want to see Jennings do going forward. If they just keep relying on these trick plays, though, I think it could be a very long season.
And the big thing is, though, is that London Little was non-existent against North Central. He was existent against Linfield, existed against Roosevelt. London Little is by far, besides Clinton Schwalbe, he is the biggest piece on offense. He is the biggest X factor for this team. And I mean, Justice, Jacob, you guys saw, when he gets in the game, he's electric. He has 200 plus yards receiving. He has 100 yards in both games that he's played in. I mean, this guy's electric. He could easily be first-team all-conference wide receiver if he plays well in conference play. But Oshkosh has to feed him the ball as best as possible. And I think that's the big thing. Is he going to be able to carry this off? Can he carry this offense alongside Ben Velasky, alongside Quinn Keene? But also, you have Clayton Schwalbe, who has really not been used much in the past game. I mean, what are your guys' takes on the weapons that Quinn Keene has? And I mean, who's really going to step out as the key X factor for this team?
I don't understand not using Clayton Schwalbe. I mean, he's an absolutely fantastic blocker, pass, run, but to get 0 targets in a game where they throw the ball 31 times is a little absurd. It seems like we're coming on here every week, kind of, giving them some crap. But London Little gets 7 receptions. I like that. They use him in the running game too on some jet sweeps, even though it looks like those are some passes instead. But I like them getting him involved, but Schwalbe needs to get involved. Hunter Gibson, I thought, played well. There was a sequence, though, where I think they were about the 30, maybe inside the red zone, and they took like 3 straight shots to the end zone, and it was Hunter Gibson each time. Hunter Gibson ran the great route, wasn't great balls by Keene, and also just I don't think you need to be that aggressive. First down, like 30, I think it was in the second quarter, and we're driving, and then it's just 3 straight passes to the end zone, and the drive just stalls out. I think that was the missed field goal drive, and you don't come away with points there. It's stuff like that cannot happen down the stretch against really good teams in this conference.
Well, and kind of to that point, you got to put the ball into your best player's hands, and one of your best players' hands is Clayton Schwalbe. I mean, this guy was like a third-team D3Football.com All-American last year. He was a first-team All-Conference player the past 2 years, I think. So he has been a main focal point in this offense, and at some point you got to get him involved. Same with John Matthew. And it's good to see that they finally got London involved in this one, but you have 2 other big targets. Kellen Mella has looked really good as well. I think you just have so many options to get. You just got to get the ball into their hands and let them go to work. I mean, I've seen Clayton Schwalbe jump over a guy into the end zone, hurdling people. He's built like what I call a Greek god. I mean, he looks like he could just stiff arm you and shove you into the ground, but they're just not using him enough. They're not getting him the ball enough. They're only really giving him the ball when it's like, a touch push situation, or they're just going to give him a wildcat, and hopefully, he can run for a short first down. But you got to put him down the field so he can, use his abilities, use his athleticness to spin out of somebody, maybe stiff arm somebody or something. But I just don't like not giving them the ball. And again, it comes down to who has to get him the ball. It's Quentin Keene, the quarterback. And while I think Keene has looked a lot better than their other quarterback carousel situations that they've had this season, it just comes down to the play design, and you just got to get the people the ball.
I know, now that I think about it, I wish we had passing charts at D3 football. I don't know if Keene really threw the ball over the middle that much, and I think that contributes a lot to Clayton Schwalbe not getting the ball. Most of his passes are outside the numbers, and you can't really get the ball to your tight end. I don't know if that's maybe just an uncomfortability by Quentin Keene to not want to throw over the middle, or maybe Roosevelt just played really good defense. Their linebackers, safeties. That might need to change. It's kind of difficult, small sample size here. As we get into WIAC play, I think we're going to find out.
As that will be the final point for this segment of the sports page. We'll quick step aside for a quick break and come back. And Jacob Link will have more on UW-Oshkosh women's volleyball. We also hear from Noah Mosley on the cross-country team. Again, you are listening and viewing on YouTube, the sports page on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh. FM Oshkosh. It's now time to jump over to cross country. Noah Mosley, a sophomore out of Waukesha, Wisconsin. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're all doing good. So Noah, you guys on Friday debuted your new cross country. Is it called the Cross Country Ranch?
Yeah, we call it a ranch. We call it Morris Field of Dreams as well, and I'll get into that in a second here.
But so, how was it? You guys debut it. You're only a sophomore. I mean, how does it feel to be a part of a team and debut a new facility for Oshkosh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic course. I just want to start out by saying thank you to Tim Moore and his family. Tim Moore is an alum here from UW Oshkosh and was a member of their cross-country team, and he's now a coach over at Lord's Academy. Tim bought this property about 5 years ago and basically, spent these last few years just making it a cross-country course. This land was a cornfield when it started and became available, and it was his dream, to make a cross-country course, not only for the high school but for the university, and he's done a fantastic job making it a great course. And obviously everything, takes time. He's still working on it, as we speak, but it's going to be a great course, and we're really excited to host the WIAC Championships in the 1st of November this year. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. It's a fast course as well, so it's going to turn a lot of heads, not only around the state and the conference, but around the country as well for nationals.
But so, like you said, it's a very fast course. How'd you guys feel on the course, you and your team, with the first race? How'd you guys finish?
Yeah, I mean, our top group looks fantastic right now. The big thing is we're just trying to stay healthy this year. Last year we were really struggling with injuries, so big thing, is focusing on, making sure you're doing those little things to stay healthy and just holding each other accountable and, working together to, help you become the best runner, that you can be. So obviously our top guy, Cameron Cullen, he looks fantastic right now. He's looking to get back to nationals after missing it his junior year, and he made it his sophomore year. So he did have some injuries from his sophomore track season and all throughout last year as well. But he's looking really strong this year, and looking forward to see what he can do. I mean, and some of our young guys as well, they're just figuring it out. It's still early. Obviously, it is a long season. That counts for me as well. I'm just trying to put things together mentally and just get that confidence. 8K is a long way to run a race, so obviously it's a grind, but it's fun, and you really enjoy the process.
For the non-cross-country ball knowers, what really makes a course fast or slow? What's everything that goes into that?
Yeah, the big thing is terrain, I would say. So it is a fairly flat course. It's got one little uphill ridge with a turn, but it's up it in not even 5 steps, depending on the runner. But obviously there's some spots that are just beautiful. It's like you're running on the fairway of a golf course. So that's really gonna help, speed. And when you're trying to, make a move at that point in the course, that's really gonna help you. There's some spots that obviously, are settling and need a little bit of work, but obviously that'll become, better over time and with good maintenance, which is really something that Tim has done a really good job with this course. And it does have some tight turns, which obviously if you get a little rain, that can make it a little slick and make it a little tough, but it's going to be a great course, and we're so blessed to have it.
So no, really, what are some big expectations for you guys going into the rest of the season? Because you guys are somewhat far into your season. What are some expectations or goals you guys have set as a team to finish out the season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, last year we placed 7th out of 8 in the conference. And it's like, man, Oshkosh, took 7th. They only beat River Falls, but we all know it was injuries. That was the big thing. We did not have our sharp top 7 come regionals, and you can run 12 at conference, so we didn't have the top 12 at 100% at conference. But no offense, to those guys, that made it. Obviously, I didn't, so can't judge when you don't even make it in the first place. But that's our focus, is to stay healthy and beat some of those teams that we didn't beat last year. 4 teams made nationals last year, and 2 of them placed in the top 4. So that just shows how good this conference is. This conference is by far the best conference in the country. So we're looking to beat some teams this year. top 4, top 3 potentially. The biggest thing we'll have is we have the home course advantage, so that's something that we're gonna hold our thoughts to and use to our advantage, like I said.
I'm going to try to keep this out of frame on the YouTube stream. It's a little bit difficult just because of where the camera is pointed, but I just got a couple of questions for you. Besides injuries, what has like really changed with this team? Because you guys have taken first the last 2 meets. So how has that happened? What was kind of going through your mind the last 2 meets, and how have you guys been able to go from, finishing 7th at the WIAC meet last year to, winning the last 2 meets?
Yeah, I think the big thing is we're just, trying to get guys' confidence up. So there's not huge meets, obviously, but towards the end of the season, we'll have some really big meets. I mean, in a couple of weeks in Eau Claire, that's a huge meet. So we're really looking forward to having a good day there. That's where our regional's at this year, too, so they'll give a good idea of where we're going to need to be. And big race at the Augustana Invitational. So that's basically, like the pre-nationals, honestly. So those are kind of where the best of the best usually go, and so we're looking forward to making some noise at those meets. And
then what kind of advantage is it to race 3 times at home this season? I mean, like, technically the alumni meet is still a meet on your guys' schedule. Is that just all to prepare for, the WIAC championship? Because I guess it's really 4 times. I didn't even think about that. Basically, you guys are racing at home in 4 different meets, and that's going to be like one of the first times ever that's happened.
Yeah, obviously, I think, not having to travel, is a good thing. So you're not, getting up early to travel and spending hours upon hours on a bus all throughout the day before your meet. So you just, get up, you get ready to go, and you head to that course. And having your own course and racing on your own course is just a natural confidence thing. It's like, oh yeah, we know this course. Like, we know what we have to do, like, on this course, the little parts, like make a move here or settle at this spot, whatnot, and those are some things that you naturally develop as you run on those home courses, and that's something that, like I say, we are really looking forward to.
I also, Justice, one more question before I throw it over to you, some more questions. I noticed you guys always kind of like outside of Colf and stuff. Well, how do you guys practice? Because I know when you're running a course, obviously it's most likely going to be a golf course. But I do see you guys, running around like the streets of Oshkosh. So what kind of goes into a practice here at UWO?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year, now that we have the course more developed, we try to mix up the terrain a little bit. So I think last year running a lot of miles on concrete is maybe something that, led to injuries. But, getting those workouts in, on courses, but also on some concrete loops. Running with, different pairs of shoes is also going to help. And then doing those little things after practice Mondays and Wednesdays. So specific drills, to help with your flexibility or different strengths, and then getting those lifts in on Tuesdays and Thursdays after workouts, or just, trying to doing those little things is the big thing to help being the best runner you can be.
So I got 2 more questions. The first one is, if you had to nail down one team, who is the biggest rival for cross country?
The biggest rival is honestly UW La Crosse, because that is the team to beat in the nation. They were the national champions last year, national runner-up 2 years ago, only lost by 1 point. But they're looking forward to going back-to-back. They have a lot of really talented guys. That team is built with Division I talent, to be honest. Like, those guys can go to a lot of different places they want to at the Division I level, but they chose to go to La Crosse because La Crosse is a historically great program, and so that's one. And I would say Stevens Point, just an hour down the road. So that's another. They have another really talented group of guys, and we look forward to competing against them. They didn't run their top guys last week, so they did obviously a workout beforehand, but we look forward to competing against them at future meets.
And then the last question is, all time, anywhere, what's your favorite course?
That's tough. That I personally have raced on is the Laverne Gibson cross country course in Indiana. So they hosted nationals last year. But that course is basically like what I like to say is the Lambeau Field of cross-country courses. So they have hosted Division I nationals multiple times. I'm pretty sure it's D1 is getting it next year again, and then it's going back for D3 in a few years down the road as well. So that's my favorite course that I've ever raced on. Obviously, you know, it wasn't a really good day racing on that course for me personally, but just, you know, get to say I raced on that course is, you know, a big honor. And then favorite one, just even as a spectator, is Thomas Zimmer course in Madison. So that course is phenomenal. They've hosted Division I nationals last year, and they hosted it as well in 2018, and for a reason. It's because it's just adjacent to University Ridge, and it's very well maintained, has, you know, great terrain, and went to watch the regional a couple years ago there. So you know, and that was a great experience. So they Wisconsin is very good at cross country, honestly. That's one of their big sports, honestly. Unfortunately, it doesn't get, you know, the attention that I personally think it deserves, but honestly, it's because it's a non-revenue sport, and that honestly just makes sense in today's sports. So, but that's easily my favorite course that I've ever attended, or even in the country, honestly.
I got a couple more questions for you before we end the segment. One of them is, you know, I know Amelia Lehman, I don't know if you know her, she was a cross-country runner last year, went to nationals. She kind of talked about, I've interviewed her a few times, talked about what she kind of thinks about when she's running. And I know she kind of talks about how she gives herself like motivational cues in her head, like, keep going, you got this. Like, this is your race. So I'm kind of wondering what goes through your head when you're racing.
Yeah, honestly, I try to stay positive as much as I can, but mental toughness is, you know, my biggest struggle. Honestly, I've struggled with that since I've started, you know, running competitively. And, you know, Amelia's a fantastic runner as well. She's 3-time All-American and is half-inch champion for a reason, but obviously she's had her struggles as well. We've all had our ups and downs when it comes mentally. But I would say, you know, you're trying to stay positive and you're trying to stay relaxed, and you also want to, you know, like, focus on your goals is the big thing. I know when I'm trying not to be as much of a hindsight runner, that's how I've been as of recently. I'm like, oh, I could have kept with this group, or I could have ran this time. Like, well, why didn't you do it? So execution is a really big thing, you know, in running, and that's something that my biggest goal is this year, honestly, to finish this season.
And then another question I got for you is just, a lot of people out there, I'm assuming listening to this broadcast, aren't exactly sure, how does cross-country scoring work?
Yeah, so it gets a little complex, but obviously you can run many, many runners in the field, but they take your top 5 scores. So sometimes it gets a little tricky, you know, in big races, or very talented teams, they'll put more than 5, you know, before your second, third, fourth, you know, obviously it depends. So those 6th and 7th, 8th guys, for example, wouldn't score. So say a team goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then like 8, 9. Sorry, I shouldn't say it this way, but those guys don't count. So like you take 6 and another guy takes 7. The guy only gets 6 points. Is what I'm trying to say. So they don't count anything after 5. In high school, though, they take the 6th runner if there's ever a tiebreaker. But in college, it gets a little more complex. It's head-to-head, so it's like first guy against first guy, second guy against second guy. They actually had that in Division I nationals a few years ago. Northern Arizona beat Oklahoma State that way, but if they run it how just doing a 6th runner, Oklahoma State would have won. So, but no, that's how cross-country scoring works. Perfect score is 15. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add that up, that makes 15. So I know
obviously
right,
you want the lowest score possible.
Correct.
Right?
It's
yeah.
It's like, why does you want like the lowest score? Like it's like golf, you know, like the lower score the better. So
I'm also kind of wondering what goes into, like, how do you shop for shoes as a cross country runner? What are the things that you're looking for when you are looking for a new pair of sneakers?
Everyone's different. Some guys are really brand loyal. Some guys, you know, just like the feel. Some guys like, you know, how they look with the spikes. my big thing is I kind of go by, like my feel, because I'm trying not to get injured. Or one thing I know that I struggled with my freshman year last year was I would develop, the blisters. So I'm like, okay, like my time to, get a different pair, because there wasn't enough cushion whatsoever, because those spikes are naturally light. But like I said, everyone's different, and they have their different go to. But obviously I really like Nike spikes. They do a really good job there. Historically great with Phil Knight of the University of Oregon, and Bill Bowerman, who was the coach out there, who co-founded Nike. So they have a really rich history, but that's my kind of go-to with spikes.
Is there a difference between cross-country spikes and track spikes?
Yeah, your track spikes are going to have a little more of a plastic bottom, and then your cross-country are going to have a little more like of a rubber bottom. So I always say, like, you can wear cross-country spikes on a track, but you can't wear track spikes on a cross-country course is the big thing.
Okay. And then my last question for you is, how do you take care of your body, after a practice or after a race? Do you ice down, or what do you take?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Mondays and Wednesdays you do a lot of different drills. Like one thing we call it is a circuit. So it consists of, different active stretches and drills that you can do. Another thing I'm trying to get better at is getting those lifts in. So obviously just, building that strength to prevent injury is the big thing in runners, and developing, like lean muscle. And then making sure you get plenty of rest. That's another big thing. Coach always says, 8 hours, but honestly, I think, even 9 to 10 seems better. Obviously, in college, that can be really difficult to do. But then making sure you're eating right as well. Being well balanced is a big thing to keep in mind.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah, for your time. It was a pleasure. We'll quick step aside for about a minute break, and we'll come back, break down Oshkosh women's volleyball as they had 2 matches over this weekend. Again, you're listening and watching the sports page here on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh.
When you
Sorry,
.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh. If you just missed it, we had a great interview with Noah Mosley. Again, he is a sophomore cross-country runner for the Oshkosh team, alongside Jacob Link, Justice here, Braden Junkers, WRST Sports Director. It's now time to jump in to the sport for Oshkosh that's ranked in the top 5 in all of Division III, and that's the women's volleyball team. They had their UW Oshkosh Triangular where they went 1-1 with a sweep over St. Catherine's University, but a tough 3-2 loss against the University of Northwestern. Jacob, take it away.
Yeah, first match was really just all UWL. They won the first set 25-16, 25-18, and the final set 25-15. Leading all athletes in game 1 was actually Lauren Greer. She had 9 kills and 9 blocks. Sammy Perlberg, a name that we've mentioned all season for the volleyball team. She had 8 kills, 2 blocks, and 2 aces herself. And also Grace Juergens, the transfer student, proven why she was second team all conference at her previous school. She had 7 kills, 3 aces, and 1 block for Oshkosh in that one. And like I said, just pure dominance by UWO. Really nothing to even complain about it in this one. And let's see what their kill percentage was. I was just curious myself. They had only hit 151, which is not very good. If I'm being completely honest, they had 16 errors, but not as bad as St. Catherine's was. They hit just .025 and had 25 attack errors themselves. And that kind of followed the trend for the day. Oshkosh did not hit very well in either match, and they were just kind of lucky to squeak by with the sweep over St. Catherine. I think that just kind of goes to show St. Catherine was a 4-8 school, not exactly up to par with UWO. But then, in the second match of the day, that's where things kind of got real. They took on Northwestern St. Paul, who is 6-5. They were 5-5 coming into this match. They improved to 6-5 after the huge upset of UWO. Northwestern took the first set 25-21. Then Oshkosh was able to respond in set number 2, squeaking out a 25-23 set victory. Then in the third set, it went into extra some. I wouldn't really say overtime, but extra points there. 27-25 was that one. And then in the fourth set, Oshkosh was able to even the match up at 2 sets apiece, 25-18 with that set 4 victory. And it all came down to set number 5, which Northwestern ended up taking the 15-9 victory in that 5th set to claim the 3-2 sets overall win over the Titans. Oshkosh, they did hit better than St. Catherine. They hit 262 in that contest. Northwestern hit 249. But Oshkosh committed 25 attack errors, not what you want to see. Northwestern also blocked 10 of Oshkosh's shots. That was really kind of the big one. Sammy Perlberg, though, had 24 kills. Lauren Greer had 11, and Grace Juergens had 11. But really after that, nobody else really stepped up on his team, and I think that was the biggest reason why they ended up falling to Northwestern was just the fact that they had to just rely on Sammy Perlberg. And eventually, she's an outstanding athlete, but she can't do everything herself. She needs some other help. She needs there to not be as many mistakes as there was, especially on the serves. There was a couple times there during the contest that I was like, just get the ball over the net. That's all you need to do. At least force, Northwestern to return the serve. But what you can't do is shoot yourself in the foot and just hit it right into the net or just straight out of bounds. It's not going to help you. And, unfortunately, in this one, I think it was just a bad day for Oshkosh. They just did not look like themselves for whatever reason, but hopefully they turn things around in their next match, and that'll be this Friday. And Braden Junkers, you'll be on the call for that one for a community night. It should be an awesome day, and trying to pack the Cove Sports Center with as many fans as possible to look to break that D3 attendance record. But they're going to need a big rebound win against a very strong Stevens Point squad.
And 100%. Jacob, you even know, community night for that volleyball team, the Cove is packed and it's rocking. There is a lot of momentum. But a big thing is the Oshkosh will need to have a big bounce-back win, hopefully against Stevens Point. But again, it's another WIAC opponent. Their first WIAC opponent they had was UW Stevens Point, and they brought out the broom, swept them 3-0. But I think Oshkosh, they are stronger when they don't have to go 5 sets. We've seen that a lot. Even against CMS, who was a team that was really tough against them, Oshkosh took them down in 4 sets. When they get to the 5th set, which has been twice now, it's tough. They've scored they've been outscored with 15 points being the match point. They've been outscored 30-13 and both times that they've had to play in the fifth set. And I mean, that's going to be something that Coach Elman really has to clean up with this team. You have to be able to win the match before going to the fifth set. And I think just Oshkosh had their backs against the wall against Northwestern. Northwestern didn't back down at all. And I mean, it's just got to be able to hit the reset button. But on top of that, Sammy Proberg needs a lot more help. I mean, Grace Juergens has been the backup plan when stuff's not going well with Proberg, but more or less, there's no iron team. They need everybody that's on that front line that's starting to be able to contribute as best as possible. Because, I mean, they had 85 points to 82 against Northwestern. They have more kills. I mean, it's tough how they lost this. I mean, you look at the numbers, it was up front. That front line, 10 blocks for Northwestern. I mean, there's not much you can do when you can't get the ball over the net, like you said. But they're going to need a huge bounce-back win against Stevens Point, and that's going to be on 90.3 WRST. Will be on the call for that, 7 p.m. But, I mean, it's going to be a must-win game.
Yeah, the big thing, and I said it the last time after the loss to Laverne last week, it's the lack of a number 2 behind Samantha Perlberg. This time, I mean, they were close. You know, you had Lauren Greer with 11 kills, Grace Juergens 11 kills, Claire McHenry with 9, Maren Motz with 9, but there's not that clear number 2, and there has to be. And, I mean, as Jacob said, you have to clear. You can't make 25 errors. That's an entire set of errors. And you just give any team in Division III, I mean a high school team, you give that many shots to a team, they're going to figure it out eventually.
Just one more point before we throw back to you, Braden, is this is a very winnable match for Oshkosh, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Even though they just had one off day, I think they should be able to get the win over the Stevens Point squad. This Point squad has looked a lot different from last year's team, which took Oshkosh, I believe, to 5 sets in one of the matchups last year. This year, Point is just 8-6. They do have a conference win, though, but right now they're hitting 167 as a team. And they've had almost half of their attacks have ended up being, an error at some point. I mean, if you look at their kills, they have 641 kills and 312 errors. So they have not hit very well. And on the other side, Oshkosh this season hitting 228 with 273 errors total. And I think it's just going to come down to some of the service errors. If Oshkosh can clean up some of those service errors, they could easily sweep Stevens Point. Stevens Point has been swept a number of times this season, but it just is a couple of things here or there, and those last 2 matchups could have been completely different for Oshkosh the last weekend.
I think you're almost lucky for Oshkosh to be playing in front of the home crowd and however many show up on Friday. I think this could have had the potential to be a trap game. The Stevens Point team, their record doesn't really reflect it, but when we saw, the weekend of September 5th and 7th when Oshkosh, at the UW Oshkosh tournament, they played really well against Washington. They lost 3-2 to a team that's ranked number 10. I don't know. Maybe we'll get 2 different versions of Stevens Point. I mean, teams have the tendency to do that. So I think you're lucky that it's at home, because otherwise it could be trouble and maybe racking up a losing streak of 2.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the big thing is, though, where will Oshkosh drop in the rankings? Will they stay at 3? I don't see that happening. I think they might drop down. I don't think they drop out of the top 10, but the big thing is, though, like you said, Justice, it's going to be huge to have that match at home with them trying to set the attendance record. If you get 2,000 people there, for this game against Northwestern, there was a total of 81 people. If you get a packed Colf crowd, for all of us that have been on a broadcast for it, it's a different environment. It is something else. The place is shaking. That's one thing Oshkosh has to do. Ride the momentum wave to victory against Stevens Point.
I do think, though, that even though there was just 81 people there this weekend, that was because there was a football game, and it was the first football game of the season. Usually, unfortunately, in this day and age, there's more people that end up going to the football games than the volleyball matches, especially if it's the first game of the season. even though the volleyball team is ranked higher and probably has a better shot at winning a national title, unfortunately. But I think that the amount of people that are going to be there on Friday is just going to help this squad and really kind of build their confidence as they take on a point team that, like Justice kind of mentioned, is very up and down. We don't really know what type of point team we're going to get.
I think the big thing is, though, Noah, you can add to this. I mean, you know what it's like in Culf. It's a place that when it's bumping, it really a team can ride that momentum wave.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, adding on their biggest matches in this, they're going to have to circle on their calendars is they're going to have to travel to number 1 Whitewater, so that's obviously going to be an extremely difficult match for them. And then you can't sleep on teams like Platteville and Stout. Platteville had a very great season last year. I know they took us down to the wire in the WIAC tournament last year, so they haven't really gone away. So they really need to focus, like every game and respect every opponent because, every game in the WIAC matters and every team is capable of beating up on each other in this conference. So that's something that they really need to focus on as they go throughout the season.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I mean, obviously you have all those WIAC opponents. Number 25, Platteville. You also play number 13, Colby College out of Maine in Whitewater. Then right after, you're playing number 1, Whitewater in Whitewater, which is, that's the game you highlight. You hit the nail on the head over there, Noah. And then right after that, it's number 10, Illinois Wesleyan University at Illinois Wesleyan. And then it's number 4, Juniata College. And then number 14, UW Eau Claire. So as it stands right now, you're playing 6 ranked opponents in a row on the road. Actually, sorry, not on the road. You play Platteville and Eau Claire at home. But the other 4 are on the road. That is an unbelievable stretch that we are definitely going to have to highlight.
And the final point of all of this is, Oshkosh, this schedule doesn't get any easier from here on out. I mean, it's going to be just how can they play as a team? Can they find that number 2 behind Sammy Perlberg? And can they fix the service errors? Because this team has what it takes to compete for a national championship. Last year, they got to the Elite 8. Can they find that, almost that mojo to go back and try and win a national championship and head to Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, this team has the talent to do so. They showed it when we called the game. They showed it against Laverne. They showed it even though with a loss against Laverne, that's still a very, very good volleyball team. They beat Hope. This team continually gets great wins to add to their resume. They will get the opportunity to continue to add on to it before the WIAC tournament.
And that will conclude the sports page here on 90.3 WRST. It was great having all 3 of you guys in here. Hopefully everybody that was listening or tuned in on YouTube has a great night. Have a great night, everybody. This is Braden Junkers, Jacob Link, Justice Sear, Noah Mosley saying have a great night. We are signing off. Again, this was episode 2 of the sports page here on 90.3 WRST-FM Oshkosh.